As you can imagine, the Quincy Police Department handles a significant amount of crime. The number of open cases for the department varies greatly between old and new cases, making it difficult for the department to keep an exact count of how many. For example, the fatal fire on North 11th Street in Quincy that led to the death of 3 people in August. In order to find the answers it needs from the scene, the Quincy Police Department has to send evidence to the Illinois State Police Crime Lab, like the one in Belleville. It's the newest one in the state, having opened just 2 months ago. So how does evidence get from the scene to the lab? First, it's collected, and it's often done by this lady here, Emily Pizzella. She's the crime scene technician for the Quincy Police Department.
And the different ways it's collected, there's certain procedures for certain types of evidence. If you have biological opposed to fingerprints or, fire evidence, it's all has specific guidelines on how to collect it and what's proper and what's going to hold up in court.
Pizzella says after collection, evidence is logged and taken to storage where Jane Alcopol, the evidence custodian, keeps watch. The evidence is put into a secured locker. Then the key is dropped off.
Once it's in there, it's secured. I have access to it from the other side in the evidence room and take it out of that locker.
Only a handful of people have access to this room. It's closely guarded against contamination. This process is closely monitored because it can mean the difference between a guilty or not guilty verdict. From the evidence room, some items are packed up and shipped out. Once it gets to the lab, like the one in Belleville, it has to be checked in. That could take hours.
Our backlog, yes, we do have a backlog, and we're working on that, trying to reduce that.
And once it's in, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's being worked on. Depending on the type of evidence, results could take weeks, months, sometimes almost a year. Also, Quincy police can get the answers needed to help solve a case.
When I was a juvenile officer, I dealt with a lot of child victims, and that's tough. It's tough to remain the police officer and still be able to be effective, because that's what you have to do. You have to be effective to bring these cases to a resolution and help your victims.
It's just a long process. It just really, really is. And to be patient, because we don't always have the answers, but people will find the answers if there is an answer to be found.
So when you think the answers to a crime are slow to develop, remember, it's part of a long process, one that these women use to bring those answers to light.